All right, class. First off, as always, good day. Glad you guys are here. Today, we are going to be talking about the conspiracy and assassination of Abraham Lincoln. Okay. Now, the objective, we're going to analyze the plan to kidnap Lincoln. Because believe it or not, to kill Lincoln was not the original plan. It really wasn't. Okay. We're going to look at what the original plan was and things like that. We're going to examine the events leading to the assassination and if there was anything that could have been done to prevent it. And lastly, we're going to create an argument on whether Major Rathbone could have done anything more to stop Booth. Okay. So here's your warm-up picture. Okay. Excuse me. The first question asks you to analyze a picture and basically tell me, what do you see? What's going on? There's a lot of action going on here. There's a lot of movement you can see. So explain, what do you see? Look at the background, foreground, left to right, things like that. Okay. If you don't know the name of the people, that's fine. Just say a guy doing this, a person doing this, a woman doing that. Okay, that's fine. Okay. The second question says, based off what you see, do you think the guy jumping is going to get away? Yes. Why? No. Why? Explain. Okay. So, pause the video, write your responses to those questions. Okay, because we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. All right, so the guy in that picture right there, that is John Wilkes Booth. He is a famous actor. Okay, think of it like The Rock and Denzel together. All right, I'm not talking about the physical The Rock. I'm talking like how many movies he's in, blockbuster movies and things like that. And then think of Denzel, how great of an actor he is, or like Morgan Freeman. And combine those two, that's Booth back in the day. Okay, phenomenal actor. Thing is, he was a Southern sympathizer. He basically saw this whole war as like, oh, the North is attacking the South. Oh, these poor people, how are they going to live without their slaves? They're attacking their whole lifestyle, they're changing their whole lives. It's not fair. That's how he viewed it. Um, he was from Maryland, which is where our capital is. Now, here's the thing. He's not just the only actor in his family. Actually, his whole family are full of actors. They are world renowned. They are known throughout the world. They played everywhere. They are Shakespearean actors, which those are the best of the best. People who memorize Shakespeare and the parts and plays and things like that. It's hard language if you've never read Shakespeare. Um, the thing is, though, like many Americans, Booth is like, oh man, the Confederacy, the South, they're losing this battle. They're losing this war. The North, it looks like they might pull it off. The needle is going a little bit more towards the North that they're going to win. So what Booth does is he goes to Montreal, Canada. Okay, and there he's met up with some Confederacy agents, and he meets with them. They're talking, having a couple drinks, things like that. And Booth is like, man, I wish I could do something. I wish I could do something to help out. And they're like, well, why don't you? Why don't you? So when he goes back to Maryland, he starts to form and starts boiling over like, what could he do? What could he do? And then it hits him. What if I kidnap the president of the United States? Right? I'll kidnap him. And once I kidnap him, I'll trade him for all the Confederate soldiers who are prisoners of war. Yeah, there has to be like tens of thousands of them. So for one man, the top man in the northern government, yeah, they would have to trade him. He's too important. So that's his plan. Here's the thing. Booth knows he can't do it by himself. So he starts looking for help. These guys, 6 of them in particular, meet up at the Washington boarding house, which is owned by this lady named Mary Surratt. Keep that name in the back of your head because that's going to come up later, okay? Now, why did they meet there? Because Mary Surratt's son, John Surratt Jr., is one of the guys who wants to help out. Okay, he's a Confederate courier. A courier is a person who carries things like messages and packages and things like that. All right, but he worked for the Confederacy, so he's able to cross through Northern Territory, delivering stuff to people who are Confederate sympathizers or Confederate soldiers and spies and things like that. The next person is Samuel Arnold. Now, Samuel Arnold is a longtime friend of Booth. He's like a childhood friend. And if you've ever had somebody who's been your friend since you were like 6, 7, 8, or grew up in the same neighborhood you did, and you like trust them completely, that's Samuel Arnold to John Wilkes Booth. The next person, Michael O'Laughlin, which is again a longtime friend of Booth, but also O'Laughlin is an ex-Confederate soldier. He was captured, but he was released under the prisoner exchange that they used to have. The next person was George Ozerodt. Now, what he did is he ran blockades to get supplies. Okay, so not only on land, but in water too. He was able to get supplies from one side to the other and things like that. The guy was pretty good. The next person is that man in the picture right there. That is Lewis Thornton Powell. He's a former Confederate soldier. He too was captured as a prisoner of war. He was released as a prisoner exchange. The thing is, like Lincoln when he was younger, Powell is really tall and really, really strong. I mean, he is physically fit. I know that picture doesn't do justice, but the man is strong. Okay. The other thing is, he's a trained killer. He not only can kill with the gun, but he can also kill with knives and even hand-to-hand combat. So the man's a trained killer. And because he was a prisoner of war, he has a chip on his shoulder because he was treated pretty bad as a prisoner of war. So he's like, yeah, I want to get back at these guys. The last person is Dr. Samuel Mudd. He is, like Booth, a Southern sympathizer, and people in the town love him. He's like the doctor everyone loves. Thing is, again, he's a doctor, and I don't know about you, but I wouldn't trust a doctor with the last name Mudd. So here's your first question. Which type of men do you think was the most important to have if you were going to kidnap the president? So if you're going to make your list of men you need with certain skills, which skill would you feel is the top one? Would it be a smuggler, a loyal friend, someone who's not going to say a thing if you guys get captured or something happens? They're not going to say a thing. A trained killer or a doctor? Which one do you feel is the number one thing? If you're going to make a list of people who are going to kidnap the president, which one do you feel number one? This has to be number one. So again, smuggler, people get things from one place to another without being caught. A loyal friend, hey, they're not going to say a thing. You ask them to do something, they'll do it. A trained killer, hey, just in case something bad happens, the president fights back, this person can handle them. Or a doctor, hey, sometimes something might happen. They try to capture him, he gets hurt, he might be dying. They need that doctor to heal him because a dead hostage is worth nothing. So write your response, pause the video, okay, because we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. So Lincoln is going to go see a play called Still Waters Run Deep at this hospital just on the outskirts of Washington, D.C. Booth is like, oh, this is perfect because where the White House is and where this hospital is, there's a section where it's like empty field and we can like sabotage, we can like bum rush him or we can sabotage the road or, do something, and there's no witnesses, so we can get him, get away, things like that. So he explains his whole plan to the guys, and they're like, yeah, okay, that sounds good. Okay, all right, let's do this. So he develops a plan to intercept the carriage once en route. But here's the thing. Lincoln is notorious for saying, oh, I'm going to do this, and then the last minute, oh no, I'm going to do this. Okay? And that's what happens. He is going to go see the play, but then all of a sudden, the last minute, he changes it because he decides he wants to speak to the 140th Indiana Regiment. These are a group of soldiers that are going to go off to battle. So Lincoln, again, loves soldiers. He loves talking to them and things like that. So he goes off to see them instead. So the plan is ruined. Booth says, okay, guys, okay, don't worry, all right, I got another plan. Okay, here's my plan. Everyone knows Lincoln likes to go to the plays, right? Ford's Theater, which is that picture right there of that building. I know that place like the back of my hand. I've played there. I know all the pathways, the quickest way in and out of that place. Lincoln is always in the same booth, the presidential booth. All right? We'll kidnap him, take him out of the back, and escape. His guys are like, are you kidding me? Ford's Theater is like right in the middle of town. There's people everywhere around that area. What are we going to do? Tiptoe with a 6'5" man in a bag? No, that's a horrible idea. That's horrible. So they're like, no, we're till you come with something better, we're gonna go our own ways. So Booth is kind of like, dang it, man, that it could have worked. It could have worked. No. So here's your next question. Do you think if the kidnapping of President Lincoln was successful, that the Civil War would have continued? Why not? All right. So do you think that the government would have actually traded Lincoln for all the soldiers, or do you think they'd have been like, you know what? No, we have a system of government. We have another person to be president if we can't get Lincoln back. All right. So here's the thing. Booth became extremely furious when Lee surrendered. So if you watched the last video, you already know about that, Lee surrendering and stuff like that, or if you were in class. But what really drove Booth over the edge was when Lincoln went to this balcony at the White House and he gave a speech to some people outside. Booth was there. This is where he mentioned that slavery was over. The ratification of the 13th Amendment has happened. Slavery is gone. That, again, upset Booth. But that wasn't the last straw. The last straw was when Lincoln said in that speech, he believed some, again, the key word was some, black people should have the right to vote. People like the educated, like Frederick Douglass, or the veterans who fought during the Civil War. He's like, they deserve it. They fought, when they were still considered not free. Now that they're free, yeah, they should have the right to vote. Booth did not hear the word some. All he heard, and like a lot of people, all they heard was Lincoln said black people should have the right to vote. This pushes Booth over the edge, and he is furious, beyond furious, just in rage mode. So what happens is Booth then changes his plan from kidnapping Lincoln to killing him. But Lincoln is not the only person. Booth gathers up all the guys and tells them, we're going to kill Abraham Lincoln. And we're going to kill Vice President Johnson, Secretary of State Seward, and, if we can, get General Grant. Because here's the thing. Those are the 4 top heads of the government. Our government is not a hydra, which is a a creature from the mythological times where if you cut off its head, two more grew back. He's saying this is not a hydra. The government's not a hydra. It's a snake. You cut off the head of a snake, the body withers and dies. And that's what's going to happen if we kill these four guys, get rid of them. The northern government is going to falter. It's going to be, people are going to be looking around going, who's in charge? Who's in charge? Who's in charge? When that's happening, the South will then can gather up their strength and fight again, giving them a second wind. That's the plan. So April 14th, 1865. Lincoln wants to, this is Good Friday, by the way. Good Friday, April 14th, 1865. Lincoln decides, you know what, I want to go see a play called Our American Cousin. So they invite him and his wife, Lincoln and his wife, invite all kinds of people, right? They invite General Grant. Well, him and his wife send a letter saying, yeah, we can't join you, we're sorry, things like that. They invite the vice president. The vice president says, like, hey, I can't, sorry. He sends a letter to Secretary of State Seward. Seward's like, hey, I was just in a carriage accident. I'm in a big old metal brace. And this metal brace is like around the head, on the neck, over the shoulders, and covering part of the chest. All right, so he's like this. He's like, dude, I got in an accident. I can't go. So the only people who said yes, that they would go, was the people here in this picture. That's, the guy is Major Rathbone, and the girl is his fiancée, Clara Harris. Okay, they agreed to go. So during the right before the nighttime, Booth and the guys meet up one more time. Okay, who's gonna kill who? Booth right away says, I got Lincoln. Lewis Powell, David Harold, they're like, okay, we'll take Secretary of State Seward. George Osterott says, okay, I'll take Vice President Andrew Johnson. Okay, and Edmund Spangler says, I'll take General Grant. Now, before Lincoln goes to the play, he basically tells his security guys, I don't need all you guys. I just need like one person, okay? I just need one person. Also, Booth, before he goes into the theater, hires somebody, just a kid. Says, here's a couple bucks. Go to the back, hold my horse, all right? I'm going to be in and out really quick. So the kid's like, okay. So he goes, takes the horse in the back. Around 10:15, Booth gets into the theater and he sees the play as Our American Cousin, and he knows this play like the back of his hand because he's been in it. He knows exactly when people are going to laugh, when they're going to cheer, when the band is going to play, and things like that. All right, so he's making his way towards Lincoln's booth, and then he gets stopped by a presidential aide, the guy who's supposed to take care of him. And Booth is like, whoa, here, look at this is my card. I'm an actor. And the guy's like, oh, hey, yeah, Booth, yeah, okay, yeah, go ahead. You're in this play? Yeah, go ahead, So Booth goes through the stairs towards the presidential box. He opens the door really slowly, and he's just waiting for the right moment, right? Now, the thing is, Lincoln's kind of like looking over at the band and things like that, getting a good look at him. Booth is getting closer and closer, and he's just waiting for him. And he's about 4 feet away from him, and then he shoots right when the people start cheering and this and that. Now, some people think, or said they heard, Booth say, revenge for the South. Some people think they heard him say, freedom. Some people said he never said anything at all. Okay? So what happens is, Booth tries to run, but Major Rathbone and him are fighting. They're wrestling each other, and then Booth grabs a dagger and slices Major Rathbone across the arm. This is where Booth then, just like on the warm-up picture, starts to jump off the edge of the balcony. Major Rathbone is able to like grab him a little bit, but not completely. But what it does do, it makes Booth's spur on his boot catch onto the flag that drapes over. And so instead of landing just feet evenly, he lands one foot and then the other. And what ends up happening is he fractures his shin. And this is when he looks at the crowd of stunned people like, what's going on here? And he says, Sic semper tyrannis. Sic semper tyrannis is Latin for thus always to tyrants or traitors. Okay, you can use the end part. You can translate it either way. And then he rushes out the back. He's hobbling. Remember, his shin is busted. He's hobbling, running through. People are like, what's going on here? Gets out the back door, jumps on his horse, and gone. The people who are in the audience are like, what's going on? I've seen this play. That never happened before. What's happening? And then all of a sudden, Mary Todd gives a scream. Lincoln's wife just screams this scream. Just, ah! Just horrible, horrific scream. There's this guy named Charles Leal, 23 years old. He's a medical doctor who's in the army, and he books it. Running up the steps, runs up there, sees Lincoln leaned over, hole in the head, bleeding out. He's still alive. And he's like, okay, he can't be here. Soldiers start coming up the stairs, and Charles Leal tells them, hey, we got to get him out of here. We need to take him somewhere. And someone says, there's a boarding house across the street. We can take him there. All right, let's do that. So they start going down the stairs. Everyone is basically out of the theater. But when they rushed out of the theater, people were screaming, yelling, crying, telling people, Lincoln is shot. Someone shot Lincoln. Someone shot the president. And all these people who were out and about are now rushing to see Lincoln. And so here's these soldiers, six of them, trying to take him to the boarding house across the way. And they're being slowed down because people are crowding, trying to see Lincoln. And they're telling him, get out of the way, get out of the way. So they finally get him into the boarding house. You have to remember, Lincoln is 6'5". That's extremely tall for a person back then. So they get to this bed to lay him down, and it's like this bed's only for people who are maybe like 5'8". So they have to put Lincoln diagonally, and they also have to like bend his legs so he could fit. Now Lincoln is breathing hard, right? He has a raspy breath. He's just like he has that. He's fighting for every breath. The bullet is still in his head. It's lodged behind his right eye. So if you've ever had a really bad headache and you feel that pressure building behind your eyes, that's as close as you can get. But just imagine there's actually a metal piece pressing against your eye. The surgeon, they are able to get one. He comes in and he looks and examining the back of Lincoln's head. He sees the bullet and he goes, I can't save him. And they're like, well, we need another doctor. He's like, no, you don't understand. The bullet, when it went in like this at a point. Once a bullet goes inside a body, it tends to open up and mushroom. So now you got this shards of metal and stuff like that here. It went in like this, but it's now that it stopped, it's like that. So if they were to pull it, the shards of metal at the ends would be cutting through nerve, muscle, tissue. It could even, if where it was, it could even like rupture his brain. Nerves and things like that. So the doctor's like, we can't. We take it out, we'll kill him for sure. The thing we could do now is make him comfortable and have people come in to say their final goodbyes. So that's what they do. His staff comes in. They're able to get his son there. His wife's already there. And the next morning at 7:22 on April 15th, 1865, Lincoln is pronounced dead. He's 56 years old. Famously, Edwin Stanton, the Secretary of War, says, he now belongs to the ages. Now, this pictures you see, these two, the one where he's like with the hair down and stuff like that, that's a picture he took right before he became president, before he left to Washington, D.C. The other picture you see, that is him, and it's the very last picture. Guys, that's 4.5 years difference right there. You can see what this war, what the presidency did to him, how much it aged him. All right, so that picture you see of that gun, that is the actual gun used by John Wilkes Booth. It's a 41 Derringer. They still make those guns to this day. They don't make it with the flint, like lock and stuff like that, but they still make those type of guns. That dagger you see, that's the actual one Booth used to cut Major Rathbone. And that picture on the bottom, that is the bullet that was taken out of Lincoln's head after he died. And you can, if you look closely, you can see the edges, points of edges where the metal was. You can see. So imagine if they pulled it and he's still alive, that pain he would probably be experiencing. Okay. Excuse me. So here's your next question. If Lincoln would have lived, do you think he would have ran a third time or more? Because remember, now they're coming to the Reconstruction. He already got elected twice. They're getting to the Reconstruction. People love Lincoln. And, you know, he said it too, I'm a servant of the people. Do you think he would have continued on? Or do you think he'd have been like, you know what? I'm gonna do like George Washington, 8 years, that's it, you know, because this job is killing me. What do you think? What do you think he would have done? All right, so pause the video, think about it, and write your response. Okay, because we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. All right, so here's your exit ticket question. Remember, only answer one of these three. The first one says, analyze the plan to kidnap Abraham Lincoln. So the whole thing about kidnapping him on the carriage and things like that. Break it down. What do you think? Do you think that plan would actually worked? If so, why? If not, explain. What's something that they may not have thought of? The second question is, examine the events leading to the assassination. And if there's anything you could think of that could have been done to prevent his assassination. Lastly, you guys are going to create an argument on whether Major Rathbone could have done anything more to stop Booth. What do you think? He fought him, got cut, reached and grabbed him a little bit, but you think he could have done any more? Why or why not? And explain that. All right. Now, one other thing too I want to add, I get this quite a bit from students throughout the years. Where was the Secret Service? Okay, here's the thing. The Secret Service was around back in the day. Lincoln actually created it. But their job was not to protect the president. Their job was to find counterfeit money. That's still their job to this day, to find counterfeit money. So it wasn't until Lincoln was assassinated that years later they basically said, you know what, the president does need to be protected. Who should do it? Secret Service. Okay, so yes, the Secret Service was around back then, but that was not their job to take care of the president. All right, so if you did question number 2, and you say, oh, they just should have the Secret Service, well, they did have it, but that was not their job to protect them. Okay, so that's it. You guys have a good day. You take care and you be safe. All right.